You hit a button and you're thinking something's going to work. And then you're like, well, maybe it will and maybe it won't. There you go. Hi. It's a new week, and it's another go round of SDH AM. John, here, you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. We'll go over the Atlanta United loss in Chicago. Abe Gordon's going to join us in about 10 minutes or so. We'll catch up with Abe. And we'll hear from Ronnie Dyla and Ronald Hernandez in depth. The sound from after the match, I've pulled, and it's long, but it's worth it. And you know me, I don't like dealing in sound bites. And the fact that we have the space that we have is a good thing where we can all just kind of listen to things in depth and frustrations and all this kind of stuff. And you definitely hear that from both Ronnie Dyla and from Ronald Hernandez. So we'll catch up with that, and we'll catch up with your thoughts as we go. Hour number 2, we're going to kind of go, and this is where this week we're going to be kind of drifting in and out. It's a chaos week to begin with because Atlanta United has Austin on Wednesday, and we're tracking folks down in Austin to see if they can catch up with us before Wednesday night. Then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's the GHSA Championships. You can catch that on the NFHS network. And let's see, me, Maddie, Jess, Jason, Mateen the Dream, Mateen Rod, the voice of the Athens Rock Lobsters, Luke Winstel, who is a friend of the network. He's going to be calling matches. Justin Hanover is going to be calling matches. What we're going to be kind of doing for coaches that can't take their noon hour and be a part of in session at noon, I've kind of opened the gates up a little bit. And so in our gap spaces this week, we're going to try and catch up with some coaches as they get ready for their activity in the championships. To that effect, Scott Snyder, the head coach at Westminster, is going to join us at 10. Micah Aiken, the coach at Marist, is going to join us at 10:20. So that'll get us kind of into the GHSA championships. No soccer is in session today. That picks back up tomorrow. And it looks like it's going to be Molly McCarty from Jefferson, Frank Zamora from Johnson, Gainesville, and Troy Connolly also looking to join us from Cobb County. And that's going to be coaches 1, 2, and 3 tomorrow. Coach McKinnon from Atkinson County is going to join us on Wednesday. And that's kind of how this will go, at least in session. No in session today, so we've opened up the gates a little bit in hour number 2. Westminster and Marist are going to join us, and we'll catch up with them and find out what's going on. But once again, remember, whatever's on your mind as we go here on a Reaction Monday, and we'll lay out everything, stats, all the numbers, all that kind of stuff involving Atlanta and Chicago Fire. But once again, the idea of 3 matches in 8 days, that's what you can look at here. You have a good week, you get into the playoff picture, and then you go from there. But you're talking about teams with 3 different styles. In Chicago, in a rebuild. In Austin, trying to find an offense, and we know what Philly brings to the table. That's on Saturday night. So that's where we are this week. We're going to be kind of slamming in the Atlanta United 3 matches in a week, plus the GHSA championships, plus our pundits. So it's going to be a week that's going to fly by, and we got a lot of stuff to get into. Tomorrow probably is when we will get into what happened with an owner who's not supposed to be an owner storming out onto the field and catching his coach. And that almost was opening kickoff, but it's entirely too much to think about. And there's plenty to talk about where that's concerned. Nottingham Forest, if you missed it, their owner, who isn't an owner, who had to put the team in a blind trust so they would not fall victim to the rules of European monetary football engagement. After the match, he stormed the field, and he wanted to, I guess, talk to the physio for Nottingham Forest, and he got headed off by head coach Nuno Espirito Santo, and still Evangelinas Marinakis decided that he wanted to have a conversation and dress down anybody that he could stand next to in a public forum, even as his team had qualified for Europe. But we'll get into that tomorrow, because then we'll have the space to get into it with some of the analysis that was instant from our friends at NBC Sports and the Premier League. So, yeah, this week we're drifting in and out of Atlanta United. We're drifting in and out of the GHSA championships. And because here's the grid. Here's the grid at the moment, by the way. So in session, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's our last 4 Soccer is in sessions of the year, presented by Kaiser Permanente, because the championships go this week. Time slots that we have available, hopefully we can bring in high school coaches to catch up with the championships and literally just fly around and sit there and go in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So that's kind of what we're hoping for this week as we fly around like you wouldn't believe, trying to catch up with everything. Yes, I'm waiting to see. Man's got to be properly hydrated. He has to be properly hydrated. That's how this works. Making sure that, well, and I'm going to go ahead and bring Abe in a little early here, because Abe is, once again, he's on the Tom Coughlin scale. 5 minutes early, you're on time. You're on time, you're late. You're late, doors closed, doors locked, you ain't getting in. So you don't have to hide being hydrated in this segment. You know, right?
No, I woke up not too long ago. I hadn't had anything to drink. Took a dog out, and yeah, we're just getting going, man. It's what's funny is, as you mentioned, I'm like 5 minutes early. I don't actually I'm always at the same time now, and I don't remember what time I was supposed to be. I think it was originally like 9:20, and then I started showing up early, and now I'm just here at 9:10 every day. So here we go.
Yeah, but that's perfectly fine. I mean, it gives me a chance to get through the opening monologue and get everything squared away for the week, and get opening kickoff up and running as we juggle both high school and a 3-match week for Atlanta United. And obviously, and after you, I have post-game sound from both Ronald Hernandez, and I'm not bleeping it. So I'm running it as is, and that because I don't want to do bleeping and editing and things like that. And then the Ronnie Dyla sound, obviously, that you and Maddie got the chance to listen to after the match with Chicago. But once again, it was one of those where at the end of 90 minutes, it wasn't good enough. There were waves, there were moments, but it didn't take over the full 90, and you end up getting the own goal. However, look, right now, get a goal on the board, feel better, and then you can push and pursue. And then coming back on defense and backtracking, and then Chicago has an opportunity, and it ends up open in between the 6 and the penalty spot for a slam dunk. You lose 2-1. Now that you've had a day and a half to think about it, what else is stuck in your head?
Yeah, what really stood out to me, I think, is the message that Ronnie Dyla wanted to deliver and then ultimately couldn't because of the 86-minute go-ahead goal for Chicago. Look, you fall behind here 15 minutes into this game. A tough penalty kick, but had to be called. There's no way around that.
Right.
And you fight and you scratch and you claw, and ultimately you're not very dangerous. But you stay in the game, and then in a moment you put the ball in a dangerous position. And look, I don't want to hear about the own goal nonsense. Like, it's not like guys are turning around and firing it at their own keeper. Like, you're putting the ball into dangerous positions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care if it goes off of your guy's shoulder, off of a head, off of a hip, or off of one of their guys' toes. It finds the back of the net. So put the ball in, good things could happen. And it felt like for 5 minutes, because that's all it was. It felt like for 5 minutes, maybe things had flipped a little bit, where you could say, this is a team that doesn't give up. This is a team that continues to fight. This is a team that finds a way, all that stuff. And ultimately, because you did not outplay Chicago in this one, ultimately you maybe could have said that this was a result that we maybe didn't even necessarily deserve. And can use that as a chance to step forward. But that was a 5-minute stretch in which you thought that way, and then it all went away. And it took a while for Ronnie Dyla to enter the post-game press conference room. I would imagine there were some words being said in the locker room, and then when he got there, he called his team soft 3 times. You go back and listen to it. He called the team soft 3 times, and And that's pretty much all you need to know. I think he had a message he wanted to deliver when they equalized, and then ultimately couldn't deliver that message to the media, or really just to Jason, who was the media on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, and there's a lot of things that go into it. Latte Loth was largely invisible in this game. We keep asking whatever we want to ask of Miguel Almiron. He's nowhere close to good enough right now. He's just not dangerous. Saba didn't start, and obviously he comes on late and does what he can. I thought they were better all the way from the back line up until the attacking third. But again, your XG, which I know I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I use it in this instance to point it out. You're just not dangerous, like, at all. Chicago had a 2.7, I want to say, XG.
Yeah,
And you go back and look at that game and look at the saves, right? Obviously, a ball comes through a wall, which is just sloppy. But Goose has to make a massive, massive save there. There were other moments. Goose almost got beat at the near post. He had to go down low and poke it away for a corner kick. Almost a goal there. The Chicago looked dangerous, right? Now, ultimately, it was only the 2 goals, but they looked dangerous at times where you kept them out of net. Atlanta didn't look dangerous, and that's what's the most frustrating thing for me is I just don't know how to make the argument for goals are going to come, because there's just nothing there. There's no knocking on the door. I guess you can send it in like Moranchuk did and hope for the best, and obviously it worked out, but Latte Loth is not getting service. There's still obviously a massive disconnect there. And quite frankly, Miggy is completely lost. I don't know if it's stress or the pressure returning to this club and trying to be that guy. He is nowhere near the player that Atlanta United paid for or expected.
The numbers that you were alluding to, the XG was double, 262 to 131. 4 big chances for Chicago, none for Atlanta United. 18 total shots for Chicago, 13 for Atlanta United. You mentioned Brad. Brad had 6 saves on the day. To your point about pressure, 9 corners for Chicago, only 1 for Atlanta United.
And that one corner was like in the 88th minute or something. Like, it was super late too.
And, you look at a couple of other things. Atlanta United had more free kicks, had a couple more tackles. They had one more yellow card on the day. So all of these things coming together in a lineup that was a back 5, and it starts out as Ronald, Luis, Derek, Matt Edwards, Brooks, Lennon, and if you want to go 5-4-1 just for the sake of pictures and drawings, Miranchuk, Jay Fortune, Mateus Click, Miguel Almiron, and then Latte Lot up top. When Brad by far has your largest grade from SofaScore to 7.9 because of the 6 saves that he had on the day. Derek had a 7-2. Miranchuk and Latte Lot had 7s. Everybody else had 6s. I mean, it's pretty one-sided, and I don't know how else to say it in this particular case. It was one-sided, and you had a chance, and then you end up giving up the goal 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes after you get the equalizer, where I think conventional wisdom is that you get that equalizer, okay, go ahead and chase after the second one. You got the first one, good. You've got a draw. Now go chase after more points on the road, and it turns into a transition opportunity where you don't get back. And Ronnie Dyla, the head coach, alludes to that in the post-game press conference. He didn't allude to it. He just pretty much laid it out there. You got to get back in these situations, and you don't. For whatever reason, right now, this is where Atlanta United is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's their mindset. Like, the way this season has gone, in no world am I like, all right, let's go find a second. Like, you got so incredibly lucky to find a first. Like, I was sitting there like, ride this out, like, take your point. You certainly didn't deserve it, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
And see if you can regroup and do better on Wednesday with a short week. So, yeah, that wouldn't have been my mindset here, John, because I thought at that point, the way you had been outplayed, the way they had held the lead for as long as they did, and as many times as they knocked on the door to find a second, I thought you were lucky to be in a tie situation there for 5 minutes. So, again, the team and the manager, they obviously can't concede that, we're just going to hold down 1 point, especially not the way the season has gone.
Right.
You're a little desperate, and maybe that leads into that decision or that feeling. But I would have been happy with the one, and ultimately that didn't happen. And now we're stuck where we continue the same discussion points of, did the formation work? Why are you outplayed for so long? Who's your best starting 11? Why can't this happen? Why can't that happen? Whose fault is it? What are the things and they just keep saying the same thing. We need to come together. We need to fight for each other. We need to see love for the game, all that stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, like, individuals are just not dangerous, and that's a problem for me.
Well, but at the same time, though, I would much rather hear a unity of message instead of sitting there and having, players flying off the handle and not being locked into, what you're supposed to be doing in this situation. You don't want negative freelancing for.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it showcase on the field at some point, though, as opposed to just delivery through the media. And I agree with you, right? You want the one unified front, right? You want to be chasing it from the same direction. But look, maybe the thing that this team needs is a big old shouting match in the locker room. Maybe this is a situation where they got to figure some stuff out, and it's not going to be a fun way to do it because, what are they, second from the bottom right now? It's you're down there with Montreal. Like, that's one of your only wins this season. So I don't really have an answer. Like, I wish we could take a look at tactics and try and break it down. And I know Maddie was talking about tactics on the countdown beforehand. And I was like, look, I get it. Like, the tactics are something you got to figure out. The formation you got to figure out. At the end of the day, though, like, someone's got to step up and make a play. Someone's got to be an individual and make a difference out there. And I remember earlier in the season, it may have been in the first game, it may have been a second or third game, like, I saw Miggy and he put a tricky dribble on someone and made, created some space. And you're like, all right, that looks like the guy we want to see. I haven't seen that from him in 2 months or however long it's been, 8 games, 7 games. And again, he's not alone, right? We tried moving Saba on the right, try and make him more dangerous. It worked for 2 games, and then that completely fell off to the point where he wasn't even in the starting 11 this past week. And then again, Loth is a little bit different. He had one. They need to find a way to get him the ball higher up the field. He's having to drop so far back. He's got 50 yards to go just to get into a dangerous position. And he's kind of just based on the amount of service or quality he's going to get from the others. So he's in a slightly different position, but you're not going to teamwork your way into a goal. You're not going to ticky-tack a 15 one-touch passes with a tap in at the back post. Like that. That's not happening. So someone's got to find some individual efforts to create some space, to create a shot, and make a difference. And we haven't seen that for weeks now.
Well, and now you are in, and out of necessity, since you have 3 matches in a week, and it was a point that I made before you came on, where you're dealing with 3 separate clubs with 3 separate approaches, that with Atlanta United, this may end up being auditions to a certain degree because of out of necessity. I don't think you're going to play a lot of folks 270 minutes in 8 days. So you're going to see, in theory, some different folks in different places in different positions. Some folks maybe, starting 2 of 3, coming in off the bench for a third. You might see some interesting starting 11s starting in the midweek in Austin and then turning around against a very, very physical Philadelphia squad that comes in on the weekend. So this may end up being something akin to Ronnie Dyla and the staff having, for lack of a better phrase, open auditions. It's like, okay, we have this week. We saw what happened with Chicago. Next step is Austin. We got to figure out who can give me X number of minutes. Where can I put them, or wait until I need those minutes in Philly? I think this will be a very interesting week to see how things progress heading toward Philadelphia.
Yeah, and look, you saw Moyamba come off the bench, right? And I know he had been recovering from the injury and working his fitness back. So that was a thought. And same thought with Saba. It was maybe he was off the bench because you plan on starting him in one of these next two, and you're trying to rest him. And like you said, you're not going to go all three, and that's all fine. You got some guys though on that roster that are different guys than what you've been putting out there, and I think it's time you see some of them. Togashi and Brennan and Riley and Cobb and some of these other youngsters. We've seen the veterans who have been mainstays here. It's not working. I'm not saying you go full sale changes here or that it's permanent, but I think we need to see some of these younger guys in some of these matches coming up. You got to try something different. And again, I don't care who's getting paid what. I don't care what designation anyone has. Someone's got to produce. And if the guys that are labeled as such aren't producing, then I'll try guys that you maybe don't count on to produce. I thought Jay Fortune's been great. I thought Matt Edwards has been great. These are guys that are stepping. I thought Noah Cobb was good in the match he did play a week and a half ago, whatever it was. So you got to try something different. You've modified the formation a little bit now in back-to-back weeks. In 1 week, it gave you 30 minutes of improved play. It didn't do anything for you. The five in the back didn't do anything for you on Saturday. And a lot of that maybe is determined by the handball and kind of a free goal, if you want to call it that. But you got to start looking maybe a little bit more drastically if need be, because it's getting, we're not halfway yet through this season, but we're not that far from halfway. And you barely are touching double-digit points.
Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game, visiting as he always does here to start things off. So are you of the mindset with these three matches? You saw what you saw against Chicago. You're going on the road to Austin. Do you try and front load things with ideas, or do you want to try and bring in those new names that you're thinking of against Austin and see what happens against Philly, or do you want experience against Philly? How are you, in your mind, how are you seeing how you would lay things up?
Yeah, I don't think you could do anything with Philly right now. You got to find a way to get 3 points, and all attention has to be paid on Austin. And I'm not saying anything about we're going to plan for this and then we're going to plan for that. There is no secondary looking ahead to I know it's like the oldest, like coach speak, like, one game at a time, all that stuff. But like as far back as you are in the standings, like you have to maximize everything you can to get 3 points on the road. And then you can worry about the home games coming up against Philly and beyond after that. I would see what works at Austin. Hopefully you can find some level of success and then try and recreate that at home against a tougher Philly team. But I don't know if you can plan right now for what's coming on the weekend when you have the midweek match and you're in the form that you're in. Some teams have that luxury, right? You can kind of look and say, if we can just play to a draw on the road midweek and then we can focus. Atlanta's not in that position where they can kind of half hand a game over and focus on one or the other. So they've got to go full on for 3 points Wednesday, and I'm interested to see how dramatic a change that could be.
Yep, and I think it's you and me, partner.
It is, yes.
You and me, partner, at Colony Square. So we're going to be sitting there watching everything at Q2. So hit the promo for some guy named Nelson joining you inside Colony Square.
Yeah. You and me, we're going to do a fun little pregame. Hopefully it's fun, because the way the season's gone, the post games have not been fun.
Yeah.
So we'll break it down, and it was very interesting with Maddie to see some of the changes, the formation, and trying something new. And so I'm interested to see what they try in this one, because the more this level of performance goes on, the more drastic I think the changes have to be. And I know they had kind of said, you can't change everything all at once, but you are starting to move that way if you continually fall short. So I'd be interested to see what the formation looks like, who they have, and then, as you mentioned, with the match compression, who's going to play, because some interesting decisions there for Ronnie Dyla. But pregame should start at 6:30. No,
Yeah.
7:30. 7:30, right?
Seven. Yes.
Pregame at 7:30.
Yeah.
With kickoff there at Austin around 8:30. So looking forward to that.
As always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for the recaps, and go cleanse and tune everything out for a couple of minutes before everything starts back up again. As always, great to see you, my friend, to start things off every week.
We'll do. We'll see you again on Wednesday.
All right, Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. Yeah, so it's me. There, I guess I should have hit the breaking news sounder. It's me and Abe. Me and Abe at Colony Square on Wednesday night. So here's here's the rundown. So with the match with all the morning show stuff, morning show doesn't change. So then you have me and Abe at Colony Square for a Central Time kick in Austin, and apparently, and I got to check this again real quick. So hang on, weather.com. No, that is not what I spelled. So of course everybody's sitting there going, yeah, why don't you? All right. So temperatures in Austin, Texas. They are not going to be small. Like I said, it's you've got all kinds of things going on meteorologically. So the team is flying out. I don't know if they're flying out tomorrow. I'll double check, but for a Wednesday match. So the high Wednesday, the high Wednesday in Austin is slated for 106. I'm not kidding. And just to show you that I'm not kidding, I'm going to do the thing with the screen share, just to let you know, just to see. No, I don't want that one. It's not that one. It's the other one. So here we go. So here is the here's your forecast right there. You see Wednesday, 106. 106. Partly cloudy though, and you will have winds out of the south-southwest at 12. But 106 degrees. Let me get rid of that pop-up there. So 106 on Wednesday in Austin. So you got that to keep an eye on as well. 106 blanking degrees on Wednesday. And that was why I was asking about how different the lineup is going to be just in general. In general, because of you playing 3 matches in 8 days. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's 3 and 8. What does it look like? What does it look like in Austin? And you're going to have to probably manage minutes, manage players, use your subs wisely. All things being equal, hoping that everyone stays as healthy as possible. You're going to have your hydration breaks after 30 and at 80, 70, 80, 75 minutes, somewhere in there, 70, 75. So you got that to look out for as well. So you anticipate hydration breaks. You're going to have your substitutions ready to go, manage all of those kinds of things. And you're going up against an Austin club that until Open Cup, because once again it was El Paso Locomotive, it is a team that is offensively challenged. And there's no other way to put it. I mean, they actually did score in MLS play for the first time in 3 weeks in the 2-1 loss to Cincinnati. And you look at how it was for Cincinnati and for Austin. Austin plays in the 3-5-2-5-3-2, and yes, we are efforting Oppo research on this. So with Brandon Vasquez and Mirto Uzuni, in theory, being the 2 up top, you're thinking that it's probably going to end up being a back 5. That would be my guess. Unless, you have, U.S. Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez playing by himself. Uzuni drops back and it's a 5-4-1 or something like that from Nico Estevez. But if it's 2, then you're probably going to have 3 center backs. So you're probably with a back 5 or something akin to a back 5 if Ronnie Dyla goes with the 4-2-3-1. then you end up with one of those, maybe your 6 being that de facto third center back. And like I said, this is me taking one of the first things I learned from Jason and applying it to a starting lineup. Always have one more in defense than they do in attack. So if Austin is going to go with two up top, Vasquez and Uzuni, then you're thinking 3 in defense. So who are those 3 in defense? And then you have to, once again, go from a team in Chicago that is on a rebuild to a team in Austin that can't score to a team in Philly that doesn't want the ball and is going to try and out-physical you out of the building. So navigating these 3 things also is a part of it too. So that's kind of the early Oppo research that you have here. Their starting lineup, once again, you might have matching 5-3-2s, 3-5-2s. They had 5 at the back: Kolmanich, Biro, Heinzike, Svatok, and John Gallagher. Midfield, Sabovic, Ilie, and Owen Wolf. And then 2 up top, Vasquez and Uzuni, with your bench, Fodry, Dubersarski, Jader Obrian, Osman Bukhari, and Diego Rubio. Julio Cascante, Irvin Torres, Riley Thomas, and Stephen Cleveland, the backup keeper. Brad Stuver, obviously, is going to be the man between the sticks. He was the one who had the highest rating for Austin in their matchup against Cincinnati. 5 saves, goals prevented of .84, 2 runouts, 2 high claims, 4 saves, 24-53 passing, 7 of 25 on his long balls, 2 clearances, and that's it in a 2-1 loss. So that's what you're looking at with, like I said, that's just like the basics of Austin as we get into Austin on Wednesday, and then we'll turn the page and see if we can catch up with our buddy Dave Leno on either Thursday or Friday to get you ready for Philly. But we got to get to Austin first. I'm going to play the sound from Ronald Hernandez. I'm going to play the sound from Ronald Hernandez. It's most of his press conference opportunity. And no, I did not bleep it out because he had 2 references that expressed general displeasure, and I'm just double checking to make sure that the sound is what the sound is. Where is that? Okay, so here is. Once I actually load it, because you kind of need to load the sound so people can hear it, but that's just me. But yeah, Ronald Hernandez and Ronnie Dyla. Before we get into getting ready for Austin over the next 2 days, like I said, I will probably play both of these 2 very, very long segments. They total up to about 8.5 minutes. But like I said, it's worth it. I'm going to start with Ronald Hernandez. And like I said, there are 2 moments in here that could have been bleeped. I didn't. So we're going to earn our explicit rating today. So here's Ronald Hernandez after the match. And then after Ronald, we'll get into the numbers and get into players and get into player ratings and things like that. And if we have time before Scott Snyder and Micah Aiken join us in hour number 2 to talk Westminster and Marist getting into the GHSA Finals, we'll play it there, or we'll play it after, and we get back into the Atlanta United discussion in the final 20, 25 minutes of the show. So here's Ronald Hernandez after the match, most of his press opportunity that he had with Jason at Soldier Field in Chicago. And so here's Ronald Hernandez after the match, the 2-1 loss for Atlanta United against Chicago Fire.
All right, guys, we got Ronald Hernandez here. Again, we'll start with questions in the room. Jason, go ahead.
Made some lineup and formation changes today, playing in a back 5. What worked in your mind, and what didn't work?
Obviously, it is our first change of formation this season. We knew that isn't going to be perfect, but mainly we need to be secure. We gotta fight for the second balls, and then we gotta have to build our foundation with the back 5. To be honest, we did that, but but unfortunately we got the penalty, and then that changed a little bit, but we have the right mindset to to go after the game. I think that's why we play a back five.
The mentality and the togetherness, it felt like there were moments where it was very connected and Chicago fouls somebody, people are in their face. And then there were moments where it felt disconnected, it was inconsistent. In your mind, is that down to just the pressure of the situation of not finding results?
I'm not sure about that, but we need to be honest with ourselves, and that's the truth. We have been inconsistency this season, and that little details, it changed our difference. It changed the sorry, it changed the rhythm of the game. But we got to be strong. We need to bounce back, and then we have talked about it. We got to put together more consistency through the full 90 minutes.
There's moments where it feels like Alexi and Miguel get into the same spots, and you've tried moving them around a few times. How hard is it at times for you in your role to find them in dangerous moments?
That is hard. Depend of the opponents always. But Migi and Alexis, we need to figure it out and find different position to help the team. For a moment, Derek played very good balls for both of them, which was the play what we want. But like we go back again on consistency. We gotta be like to be honest with each other and move forward. We need to review the film and to be honest, we only can push and we can only improve this situation.
I know we've talked about it before. You bleed for the badge. You defend the city. You defend the colors as strongly as anybody. How hard is it right now to be seeing the team playing the way that they are?
It's tough, man, especially if you are outside. You want to help the team. I have been here for a while now, and then you feel shit to be outside, and you want to help the team. Today was my turn, and I know the people working in the club for so much time that I appreciate things like little details around the club and stuff that I fell in love, but we need to give more. It's not enough. Our performance is not enough, and we know that.
There you go, Ronald Hernandez after the match with Jason. And I thought it was important to play that whole element. If you can find it, find the whole thing. But that's a handful of minutes. And I thought it was important to play that because of what Ronald was discussing. So that it's in the locker room and it's there. The feelings are there, and it's stuff that we get into, and we've had the discussions about competitive stress and all those kinds of things. But I thought it was important to play that whole segment. That's about 80% of Ronald's press conference that he had with the Q&A at Soldier Field. But I thought it was important just to hear the frustration from players like Ronald, who absolutely live and die by this badge. And to have someone like Ronald who will basically, he'll give you 100% every single day on the practice field. He will play wherever you want him to play. And what I would also recommend is go back and see. There was the long form feature that we did at SDH with Ronald. And I would go back and listen / watch that to give you an idea where Ronald's coming from. This is straight up Ronald Hernandez. And Ronald Hernandez, once again, will live and die by that badge every single day and twice on game day. And so when he was asked to be the player to step up and speak from the player perspective post-match, to hear that from Ronald is not a surprise at all. Class act on and off the field, lays it all out there for you at 100%, and represents the crest the right way. He's going to tell you what he thinks. He is not afraid to hide what he has to say. And to be able to have him there, I thought it was important to play the whole thing. So, like I said, that's just part of it. We'll go through the numbers. And like I said, Scott Snyder from the Westminster School joining us at 10. Micah Aiken joining in after that. And Abby, there is a thought. Put in the youngins. And you are going to have to at some point, because of multiple competitions, schedule compression, what have you. How different are you going to look? How different are you going to look on Wednesday? How different are you going to look on Saturday? Those are the questions for me. And Abe and I get to experience it together on Wednesday in Austin, watching from here. But I think there is opportunity once again. I think that depending on the health of Pedro Amador and probably the idea of a quick turn, you probably are not, unless there is a recovery pattern and we don't know the bell curve on it, it's probably going to be some combination of Ronald or Matt, and then your back line, some combination of Luis, Derek, Noah, and Ephra, and perhaps Brooks Lennon on the right. Then your midfield, once again, Click, Sleesh, Jay, and Tristan. Once again, we don't know where Tristan is in his recovery, coming back from the muscle injury. It wouldn't surprise me once again if he did not start, but came in and gave you 30. That would be my thought on the midfield, just looking at it from the numbers and returning from injury. And then once again, you have your decisions up top. We've talked about Togashi. We've talked about Luke Brennan. We've talked about, you've got obviously Miggy and Miranchuk and Saba and all of that. But there will be times in the schedule, and this is probably one of those weeks where it will look different. But how different and when, that's the thing. So that's kind of what you're staring at here. Let's get into the numbers and lay it all out for you for this past weekend with Atlanta United. We talked about some of the numbers, but we do have some breaking news that we do have to get into from about 18 minutes ago. But let me go through the numbers, and we'll probably end hour number one with the breaking news. And it's overseas, and it's one of the worst-kept secrets known to mankind. But it is finally officially official. So we mentioned some of the numbers. Let's get into the lineup. Once again, we'll go through the lineup numbers that are there. So Brad punched a 7.9. We talked about what Brad has been able to do. 6 saves, goals prevented 1.3, 1 run out, 3 saves, 15 passes out of the box, 8 for 20 on long balls, clearance, 1 a ground duel, and he was fouled once. Backline, Ronald, Luis, Derek Williams had a 7.2, Matt Edwards, and Brooks Lennon. So Derek Williams on the day, since he was the highest rated defender, played the full 90. XG plus XA for the X everything, a 0.38. 14 clearances for Derek Williams in the afternoon. 1 pick, 2 tackles, 5 of 7 on his duels. Fouled once, 55 of 69, passing at 80%, 7 of 18 on long ball. 1 shot off target, had 1 shot blocked, and 1 shot hit the woodwork. but you had the 14 clearances on the day for Derek Williams. Midfield, Miranchuk was your highest rated midfielder at a 7.0. Jay Fortune, Mateus Click, Miggy all in the 6.6 to 6.8 range. And Miranchuk had that 7 with a yellow card. 27 to 35 passing at 77%. 3 key passes on the day. One cross, 2 long balls, 2 shots on target, 1 off. Only won 1 duel on the day. 1 foul, 2 clearances, 2 blocks, 1 total tackle, and then you had the penalty. And the penalty, there really wasn't a whole lot there that you couldn't do about it because of, once again, you're trying to chest it down and clear it and direct it, and then as your right arm is chicken winging and then you're coming across, that to me, obviously, that's contact, and that's a handball, and it's unfortunate, but nevertheless. And then Latte Lotta 7 up top, played the full 90, did not have a shot on target, had 1 shot off target. And I know that you want more to get to your high signing striker, so he can have more than just the 1 shot off target on the day. 1 dribble attempt successful, 10 of 17 passing, 3 key passes, 7 of 14 on his duels, 3 of 5 on the ground, 4 of 9 in the air. Fouled twice, and that's it. Jay Fortune, once again, lined up on the left as a left winger, but then he would drift back defensively to be a part of things. And I think that when you see Jay listed as a left winger per se, once again, that's probably whistle blows. Jay's there in the offensive attack, but then he drifts back to be a part of the midfield defensive core. So just because you may see Jay in a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 where he's the left wing, then that's not necessarily going to be the case. So what in the wide world of sports is what in the wide world of sports was that? I was getting something in my ear and I didn't know where it was from. All right, so let me go back in because I think I lingered too long on a particular who's he what's it's in particular pop-up window. That's what I was looking for. So and all right, so once again, let me get Jay's numbers here. Let me go back through the front line, and I'm sorry that the damn pop-up window forced me to reset everything here. So like I said, once again, Scott Snyder from Westminster in 10 minutes. And then we got breaking news, Scott Snyder in 10 minutes from Westminster, Micah Aiken behind him at 10:20. And then, like I said, last 20 or 25 minutes, that's probably when we'll hear from Ronnie Dyla. So, all right. So the numbers for the rest of the midfield and the rest of the attack in the lineup. So we mentioned Jay Fortune. I think it was probably because I hovered over something. Jay on the day, 73 minutes, 29 of 30 passing, 97%. 4 of 7 on his ground duels, fouled twice, 2 picks, 2 tackles, and 1 dribble pass. Mateus Click, who I think is rounding into form, getting close to 100% healthy, played 73 minutes. 27 of 36 passing, 1 key pass, 1 long ball, 2 for 2 on his ground duels, 1 clearance, 2 picks, 2 total tackles. And then Miggy on the day played the full 90, 24 of 32 passing, 75%, 1 long ball, 2 shots off target, 2 shots blocked, 2 of 4 on the dribble, 5 of 9 on ground duels, missed the 1 in the air, 2 fouls, 1 offside, and 3 total tackles on the day for Miguel Almiron. So I think it's one chance in the last 2 matches that Miggy has been credited with creating. So that's your numbers when it comes to Atlanta United and Chicago Fire. Okay, let me get into the breaking news because it broke, and like I said, it broke bottom of the hour. So right as we're getting into all of this discussion, of course, that's when this stuff breaks. I'm not really surprised by it all. So where is it? Here we go. Breaking Man, that was loud. Oh, I didn't realize how loud that was. Shocking no one. The Brazilian Football Confederation confirmed Carlo Ancelotti as their new head coach. Ancelotti will join from May 26th, so 2 weeks from today, following the end of the La Liga season and ahead of Brazil's FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign in June. Quote, the CBF extends its sincere gratitude to Real Madrid and Mr. Perez for the cordiality and sportsmanship shown in facilitating the coach's release during his contract term, allowing this new chapter to begin with mutual respect and cooperation between the teams, end quote, period. Diego Fernandez facilitated, according to Ben Jacobs, and led negotiations with Ancelotti and Real Madrid on behalf of the CBF. Xabi Alonso will replace Ancelotti on a 3-year deal and in time for the Club World Cup. So that's your news from all of the things that are going down over there. So that's what it's at. So Carlo Ancelotti, shocking no one, is the new head coach for the Brazil national team. So that's where we are. Yep. Once again, yep. Sorry, I'm going back and forth with guests. All right. So, all right. Now, we've got a couple of minutes. So let me go through and say hi to everybody. And I know that you guys are well into the discussions, which I always enjoy. Morning, Derek. Morning, Michael. It's good to see you and Shelly yesterday as we were all getting our exercise. Actually, I think Michael and the boss were getting exercised by their pit bull. They literally, like I said, Michael's about a 5-iron away from me here at Office HD. And he and the boss, they were out in the neighborhood as I was wrapping up my 4 miles yesterday. And it was good to see them. And you could tell that their pit bull was just kind of leading them along, and Michael's just kind of hanging on for dear life at points. But no, it was good to see the two of them yesterday. So Pars, good to see you. Alex, good to see you. Good morning, Abby. And Vast Maverick, whoever Vast Maverick is, it's the end of your days. So let's see here. See, God, this is the thing that gets to me, is like I'm trying to slide up. Where is it? It's like I'm trying to just do the right thing and slide up here, but I can't do it. And it's annoying that I can't. And so I can do this with it's interesting that I can do it with the arrow up and down. Vast Maverick, blah, blah, blah. All right. So we'll take care of a bot to end. Account suspended or deactivated. So I didn't have to do anything. Thank you for everybody who jumped the gun on that. So let's see. So morning Pars, morning Abby, morning Michael, morning Emilio. Let's see. Morning Michael, morning Emilio. And once again, as always, it's great to have everybody here that's lined up and attached to everything, that you guys are not afraid to that you guys always have the discussions. Morning, Katie. It's good to have Katie Weaver in here this morning as well. So, no, good to have all of you in here. Good to have all the discussions and everything. Katie says, Atlanta can't hurt me because Spurs are going to Bilbao. But yes, so Katie, are you going to Bilbao for the Europa League? Are you going for the Europa League final? Are you? Got some miles maybe and some points that you can take care of. But no, thanks to all of you folks. But yeah, Carlo Ancelotti is the new manager of the Brazilian national team. Color me shocked. Yeah, and Ricky, welcome home, Xabi. Yep, 3-year deal. So those pieces going into place. I don't know how many of you saw El Clasico yesterday, but it was drunk. There's no other way to put it. It was absolutely crazy. And I had there's one of my bosses at one of my other gigs. He's like, should I watch El Clasico? And it's a text chain with me and another one that I work with that's an Arsenal guy, but he understands world sport and he'll watch things he'll watch overseas, not just in the Premier League. And we're like, yeah, you should. Just because. And it was the day drinking. It was out of control. And at the half, if you had an over-under of 5.5 in the first half alone, it was a plus 1625. So you put down 100, you put down 100, You come out of that, you play the over at 5.5 yesterday in the first half alone, first 45 minutes. Then you ended up at a plus 1625 or 1675. And it was north of plus 1600. So north of plus 1600 if you had over under 5.5 yesterday for El Clasico. And you got both sides of Kylian Mbappe yesterday. But you got to see the Clasico, and Montjuic was an incredible atmosphere. And I would recommend, if you have the 4-letter, to go back and watch it. Like literally, if you have nothing going on, you just want to kind of decompress into the crazy for a little bit and have some fun. Ian Dark, Steve McManaman calling that match at Montjuic, and that crowd was nuts. The game was stupid. The crowd was nuts, and it was out of control. I mean, you could Rafinha could have had 4. Mbappe could have had 4 if he wasn't either offsides or flopping. But no, if you have the chance to go back and watch El Clasico, go back and watch it. If you have the chance to watch it in the future, watch it. But right now, it looks like since I think Barca needs, I think, 1 win. They're 7 points up with 3 to go. And then they should end up with the trophy, and that's probably another reason why Real Madrid was counting Fiorentina Perez. Like, yeah, Carlo, go for it. Yeah, go for it. I mean, it's going to take a lot more, but yeah, go ahead and see. It's all good. But yeah, that was absolutely crazy yesterday. Some amazing goals, and if you haven't seen the Montiel goal that was from South America yesterday, it's probably going to win the Puskas Award. A 23-yard bicycle kick. It's out there. So all you have to do, like, literally is go Puskas Montiel, Montiel. Puskas Montiel. Watch it, and then you're just going to sit there and you're going to be watching the whole thing, and you're probably going to end up watching it like 15 times before you realize that the loop is over. But no, Puskas Award probably is going to go to Montiel for an absolutely insane bicycle kick. But yesterday, El Clasico for 90 minutes was just as insane. And it was more insane, but it's more like 97 minutes because you had some stuff happening after 90 minutes. You had stuff happening when you thought the match was over. You thought that you had handballs that weren't called. You had stuff that was called, stuff that wasn't. You're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And it would have made for an entire segment with Bart. Bart, unfortunately, is not with us today. He had to attend to some family stuff, and all of our love is headed his direction, obviously. But yeah, El Clasico, watch it. Yesterday should have been the PSA. Watch it, and we'll find out how many folks actually did watch it. But yes, outside of that, the Puskas Award nominee, Montiel in South America, definitely worth that as well. All right. It is hour number 2, and it is time to kind of go soccer's in session and talk about the GHSA Championship. So we're kind of going – we are whiplashing from Atlanta United to Montiel and the Puskas goal and El Clasico to high school soccer because championships are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And our first coach that we are bringing in, since in session is not here today, Scott Snyder out of Westminster. We get to find out what's going on with him. How was class?
No, we have it's called May ATL. It's like a little ending sort of a 1-course thing. So we're just doing planning right now.
So how was planning?
Yeah. This is better.
When you have a week like this where you're trying to prepare for chasing after a state championship, how hectic is it when you have folks like me knocking on your door going, Coach, can I borrow you for an interview? You know, these kinds. How hectic is this week, and how do you manage it to make sure that you and the coaching staff are the ones that get most of the heat and that the players can focus and try to stay away from social media, even though they probably won't, and their classmates and that kind of stuff? How do you manage the navigate the pressure?
The big thing that I've gotten to do recently, it's a luxury, but I use my staff. I mean, that's a big part of it. I used to take on everything. and, you know, all down to the final details of like where we're going to get gas for the bus. And now I've kind of passed that stuff off, and it makes it doable. And there's definitely, you just, you don't sleep very much.
No, I mean, seriously, you don't. I mean, it not, because how far back do you go when you're trying to research an opponent for a situation like this?
In today's world, you can go back pretty far if you want to. So you try to. I have coaching guilt. I'll put it that way. Like if I don't do certain things and we were not to do well, I would feel it was my fault. So I definitely, that pushes me to stay up another hour to watch a little bit more film or what have you.
16-6 Westminster going up against 14-0 Marist coming up Thursday at 7:30. And when you have a matchup like this, and full disclosure, John Aiken's son Micah is going to be with us to discuss. He's up after you. You're batting leadoff, and Micah's batting second.
Yes.
When you have all of these coaches and all this responsibility that's there, when did it take you to get into this rhythm of deferring instead of taking everything on yourself?
I wish it had been a lot earlier, to be honest with you. I finally, in the recent years, I've gotten a really great staff. And that, I mean, it used to be I'd have one assistant, and that was just not the thing. And now I have the luxury. I have former players that want to volunteer to coach. And so it's great to have them in the fold, and they can help out and do things, and they enjoy it, you know.
When you go to a place like Dalton, I mean, when you talk about guys like Matt Cheeves and coaches like yourself that are the stalwarts here in the state of Georgia, that are, when folks gravitate to talking about Georgia high school soccer, you two are toward the front of this list. For those that didn't get the chance to see what happened against Dalton, where it was an early lead that you had to come back from, and then you're having to go to PKs, how crazy was that match with two heavyweights going at it?
It, much like you just, it was very exciting, I guess is a good way to say it. I mean, we went with a definite game plan, and when we went down early, that wasn't part of it, obviously.
No.
And but we stayed with the plan, and I usually go over like a scouting report, and I'll have a lot of information. I pared that down for this game, and I just zeroed in on 5 things that we had to stay focused on, and that kind of carried us through. And then we were able to get the goals against them. It kind of helped us in the sense that I felt that home field advantage sometimes isn't an advantage when you're kind of on the ropes and your fans start to feel a little tension. I thought we were able to accomplish it. And it was a lot of fun.
Oh, no doubt. And when you get to see the talent that's on your roster and the talent that's on theirs, I think for the neutral, it's one that you could sit there and you go, no, go watch this one because of all the talent that's there. How difficult is it for you to schedule non-region, or do you purposely try and schedule outside the state in that season 1, the non-region, to get you ready for region and playoffs? Do you schedule purposely out of state, or is that just a difficulty because of who you are?
No, it's intentional. I'm originally from Tennessee, so I have a lot of coaching contacts up there, and I've made friends in lots of places. So really, we play pretty much in the same 2 tournaments out of state that we've been doing for years, mainly because of those friendships. But then I get to meet more coaches who coach different teams, and it's just a lot of fun. I'm from East Tennessee. We go up to Gatlinburg, and Gatlinburg is fun for the boys. Even if we don't win a game, they still have fun walking around Redneck Riviera. So it's a good time.
For me, it's like going back to the days where you're going to Ripley's, you're going to Lum's to have breakfast or lunch or what have you. And the fact that I can remember Lum's, everybody's sitting there going, Lum's, what's Lum's? No, look it up on the Wikipedias. You'll know all about that when you go. There was a spot in the season when you were playing Georgia competition where you go, it's the Pace Levitt Centennial Kell Gauntlet, and you lose 3 of those 4. What did you learn about yourself in a 16-6 season where you lose 3 of 4 and you do it in basically a 9-day period? What'd you learn?
that we needed to get better, that we had deficiencies. It's actually, and now looking back on it, it was a good thing because we would have gone in feeling, hey, we know what we are, and we really didn't. And yeah, that pace beat us handily. And then we lost the last two. We had already cinched up the region seed, so we were good there. But yeah, it was a case to where we hopefully we're going to learn from it, and we have. So
Scott Snyder, head coach at Westminster, getting ready for the Class Quad A boys title game in 3 days at Duluth, 7:30. Nothing like having to take Atlanta traffic and go. Yeah, you're having to go down and then up. Yeah, that going up 85. That's going to be fun. My guess is you're leaving tomorrow to try to get there in time for the matchup at Duluth. I'm trying to count numbers here: 4, 5, 9, 11, 12 different goal scorers for you this year, one in double digits. What's it like to have that kind of balance?
well, what happened is we have one player who was probably our best player in terms of attack, and he missed half the season. He's only come back since the playoffs, and that made us have to learn how to manufacture goals, and it kind of really spread it out because we were coming up with lots of different ways, a lot of stuff to be done. And boys grew up, which is nice. It's nice to see that evolution.
Counting the number of seniors, I've got I've got a handful here. So there's, I think, 8 seniors, I think, on this roster, 6, 7, 8 that are part of this, plus a couple of others. So you've got a lot of seniors. What's it been like to see this senior class grow to this point to where they're playing for a state title in their last matchup in the season?
This class was really married to the last senior class, and they were used to the last year's class kind of being the leaders. And so this year in the beginning, it was one of those ones that they had kind of learn and grow on their own. They'd always been able to rely on the great leaders that we had, and they've progressed well. But since the playoffs, I mean, it's been an evolutionary change. It's a revolutionary change, I should say. We were not hitting on all cylinders. We do well, and then we play poorly, and then we do well and play poorly. Now it's like we kind of dialed in and have got things set, and that came out of those losses that it got us better.
Was there a moment coming out of those losses where you saw that the team had their aha moment, or was it just kind of an evolution of the learning from that time frame? And then you're like, oh, okay, they finally figured it out. They finally learned what happened in those 3 losses. Was it a switch that got turned on, or was it something gradual?
All right. After we lost our last regular season game, I was kind of depressed myself. I go home and I'm trying to figure out what to do because, I mean, I got on to them about their faults, and that didn't seem to be working, and we were just kind of stuck. And I sat and tried to figure out, and about 2 a.m, I thought, baseball teams always believe in curses. So I got to figure out what the curse is, and then I can get rid of it. And I Googled up and I found pretty cool stories about sports teams with curses, including the Atlanta Hawks. When they lost their Pac-Man jersey, they struggled.
Yep.
So I told the boys the next day. I came in, I said, guys, I know why we've been losing. And they all looked at me like, what's going on? And I said, it's our uniforms. They're cursed. I said, I've got a cross here. My wife's family had gone to Italy, and they got a cross blessed by the Pope.
Oh, wow.
I've got a cross here, and I'm going to use it. And we've got uniforms we have not yet used, and we're going to use this cross to bless them, and then we will be fixed. We haven't lost since, so I guess it worked.
So how difficult is laundry in a situation like this? Because I assume that you've got to keep track of every piece. You have to make sure that all the jerseys are taken care of, all the shorts are taken care of. I imagine it's not like hockey players or something like that, where yes, we are going to put them in the washer and they're going to get washed, and it's not
Right.
the same funk from match 1 when everything turned. But how difficult is it to keep track of everything and have folks sat there and misplaced things, briefly, and it's like, oh, I know where it is, and then everything turned whole again? Has it been an adventure keeping all of this stuff together?
Well, I used to be micromanage, and I would take up the uniforms after every game, but that just got to be too much. And so, no, we have extra. What I do now is when I get uniforms, I get them for both the varsity and JV at the same time, and I number them from 2 up to like 77 or whatever. And so I always have another one because our JV program's been done for about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now we know the rest of the story.
Yeah.
For someone who goes to Duluth to see you and Marist for the first time, they sit down there at Duluth and they watch you play. Who would be those players that the first time / neutral viewer would be gravitating toward when it comes to your success?
I think our back line has changed since the regular season, and that's been a big plus for us. And along with that, we have probably our best striker, best forward has returned, and he makes a big difference for us in that.
How big a difference is it? You said he makes a big difference. So how big a difference is it, Coach?
Well, if you look at this, he scored both goals against Dalton, although the second goal got knocked in by somebody else, and he scored 3 goals in our second round game. He scored 1 goal in the first round game, and then he scored the last round he scored, I think, 1. No, he's a great kid, and that's the cool thing that I like about Westminster is that I've known him since he was like in 2nd grade. You know, he comes to my camps when he's little, and I've seen him grow up, and it's just awesome.
So, what was your first impression when he walked in the door?
Oh, when he was young, he was tiny. He was tiny. He still gets mad because my one middle school coach, he didn't get put on the top team when he was in middle school his first year out. And I use that. I go back to the middle school now, and I was like, look, we have this guy, and he's going on to play in college, but in middle school, he was on the second team. I said, being on the second team is not a knock, guys. It's a process.
Right now, you've only given up 26 goals in 22 matches. So that's 1 and 4 over 22. So it's like 1.18. Brag on your defense a little bit. What's it been like to see them do what they've been able to do this year?
Ooh, that's actually a sore spot for me because I'd like that goal to be a lot less.
Okay.
There was one year we gave up 5 goals for the whole season, and we lost the game 4-0 this year. I was like, guys, that's almost like a season's worth. But yeah, we along with the changing the cursed uniforms, which was it was good for us. We changed our formation and we changed some of the personnel, and it's like most things. Like when you can find the right thing when they gel, it just works. It's not like that you moved people all over the field. But just sometimes a little subtle changes, like the one guy in the right place makes everything fall in.
So how much time are you going to devote a day between now and game day to what's going on? You say you don't necessarily get a whole lot of sleep, but do you step away? Do you sit there and take breaks, or are you just kind of locked into this whole thing this entire time, and then you'll worry about sleep later?
I've got to be better at giving myself grace.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've got to be doing, like when I'm not doing something, I have guilt that I should be doing something.
Yeah.
And you do need to be able to take time and sit back because, when you're young, you can do this all the time. It's like 100% because it's just pure, adrenaline.
Yep.
But as I gotten older, I've got to find ways to pace myself because I do not want to be a burnout. And there's times where you're making yourself do stuff. And I'm like, all right, I just going to need to step back and just watch Saturday Night Live for an hour and then come back.
There you go. Okay. So as promised, Micah is here. He's coming from the green room. And so this is where we do the hot tag. But before you go, now Mike is going to enjoy this. All right. So since Coach Snyder was here first, Coach Snyder, do you have a question for Coach Aiken leading into the matchup?
Oh, that's a good question to ask. I don't know if I'm ready for that. No, I know of Micah. This is the first time I actually got to talk to him directly, but his father is the coach at Oglethorpe. Obviously, my daughter went to Oglethorpe, and I've known John for years and tried to send players his way and stuff. So I think highly of his father. That'd be the thing. It's not really a question. It's just a statement for Micah. I know he's probably tired of hearing about his father at this point.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm so used to it, especially since I played for him for 4 years at Oglethorpe too. So it's like, it's just intermingling at all parts. And now my brother on varsity, so my dad's at all the games, watching his
That's
son
awesome.
play and coach. So it's like, the family dynamic is there, and it's been there for a while. So I'm just used to it at this point.
No doubt. So, Micah, do you have a question for Coach Snyder before we let him go and actually go back to study hall and get ready for you?
Yeah, you've obviously been in the high school scene for a long time. This is my third year. What are some things that you tell your players leading up to? I mean, you guys made it to the state final last year. You won it out last year. You're finding yourself there again. What are some things that you kind of tell your players to help keep them motivated? I mean, it's such a long season, and they start to get tired. And I mean, I'm sure Westminster's similar when it comes to Marist with scheduling. I mean, there's so many activities going on in the spring. So, how do you kind of find that balance of keeping your players focused without, completely taking away from some of the other things that they have going on in the spring?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big movie guy. And so
Mm.
I always like to, and obviously they don't have the attention span to watch a movie anymore,
Yeah.
but you can pull in clips from movies and like we'll do pregame, like we're going to have practice today, but we'll have a meeting before and
Mm.
I'll show them a couple movie clips that I think are kind of like relevant to what's going on. And they enjoy those. And I'm smart enough now, or maybe I was dumb back then, or both, but you try to make it fun. I mean, it's still
Yeah.
supposed to be fun. You want to win and all those things, but when we went up to Dalton last week, that was my big thing. It's like, hey, just enjoy this moment. I mean, how many times you're going to
Right.
be just like you guys? I got to come watch your Pius game, and what an awesome, like crowd and things like you feel really. You'll never get that at a club game, and I always
Yeah.
preach that. I mean, to me, we're like the national teams. Club is the pro teams, and it's more fun for us.
What movies are you thinking of pulling clips from? Do you know yet?
Oh, like we went to Dalton. They're so trite because everybody uses them, but we used Miracle, which
Okay.
worked because Dalton wears red uniforms. They weren't really Russian, but it played into it. So I'm a big Rocky guy. I mean, I watched Rocky 2 before every high school game. I know every second of that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but yeah, and then there's really cool documentaries out there too. There's one about this Memphis football team that's on Amazon Prime, and it is awesome. And it's cool. It's so cool. It's like you want to go back and find out where are these kids now. And it was just a volunteer football coach that coached for a year, and it was real life, which makes it better.
As always, that's very cool. And so, Scott, thanks for coming by, especially in a massively busy week,
Yeah.
and breaking it all down for us. And so, like I said, thanks for being a part of everything. Thanks for doing what you do for high school soccer and high school athletics here in the state of Georgia. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Thanks for dropping by.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
There we go. Scott Snyder. Now it's time to catch up with friend of the fam and friend of the network, Micah Aiken. And so now that you got your question in for Coach Snyder over there at Westminster, what's preparation been like for you getting ready for the final exam after knocking off BT 1-0?
Yeah, I think for us, we've been watching a lot of film, just kind of trying to figure out, how they play and what their system and shape are, and picking up on tendencies. And then over the next couple of days, it's just really trying to recreate some of those moments. They've got a kid who's really dangerous on long throw-ins. We want to be making sure we're managing that properly, and so just a lot of different kind of game situational moments. Because we've been out of that, we got to run and keep our fitness up kind of stage. Now it's just maintaining that fitness, and then, like we said, handling game time moments. So we've been working on that. Started yesterday. I'm going to try to continue with it through today and tomorrow, and then a quick little light walkthrough the day before the game leading up to Thursday. So
14-0, 8-0 in region, number 5 nationally in some polls, number 4 in the state of Georgia in some polls. How difficult was it for you to navigate the 3 matches in basically 10 days, where it's North Oconee, Centennial, BT? How difficult was it to navigate that part of the playoffs?
I think for our team specifically, we had a lot of opportunities for breaks. I think, at this stage, especially with games, happening so close together, it's really important to take some time off. So after the first two of those games, and actually after the BT game as well, we gave them a day off the day after the game. And just said, take care of what you need to take care of, because again, it's the spring season is just so hectic for a lot of these guys. And, I've got 10 seniors on the team who have everything across the moon right now starting to come up with. They got graduation and baccalaureate and everything. So finding time for them to take care of that stuff, I think really clears their head when we get into practice time. So it's beneficial to give them a little bit of that balance. So I noticed for us specifically, given that time off, we really came in sharp for practices, and we just were ready. The boys were super excited. They were amped on practice days, and it really kind of led to the culmination of what we've been able to accomplish over those past few games. So
4 goals allowed all season. Half of those were in one matchup. In a matchup that you beat Cross Keys January, February, March 7. So that's 9 weeks ago. You gave up half of the goals that you've given up this season. What has it been like to see this defense be what it is, to where you ain't giving up nothing to nobody?
yeah, I mean it's exciting. I have a group, a solid core of players in a back five, or even sometimes a back six, who just understand roles and responsibilities. And on top of that, they're strong. They don't give up anything easily. So, they have just been extremely organized. I mean, it was, after day one, these guys were, yes, coach, understand. And it was never oh, well, this doesn't make sense or this doesn't make sense. There wasn't a lot of trying to figure things out. It was just, hey, we've got it covered, and we're going to make it happen. And they all understand each other so well too. They're really good friends, and I think some of the off of the field stuff really benefits their kind of cohesion as a back line as well. They're really good friends. They understand each other's tendencies, and they know, hey, if Ed gets the ball, he's going to want it on his right foot, or even if he's on his left foot, I need to show it an angle to give him the right opportunity to find my feet. So they just understand each other so well, and it's honestly very little of what we've done. We kind of gave them a blueprint, and the players have taken it and just run with it, and it's been super exciting to watch.
How long did it take for them to get to that, where it's just second nature and I don't have to worry about it? I know that if I do this to here, that everything's going to be fine. How long did it take for them to get to it where it's second nature?
I mean, honestly, it was probably the first, 2 or 3 weeks of training. I think we, had the opportunities. We saw it in game. We had already played enough games too, to where we saw what some different formations might look like. So how we line up against certain teams, kind of played a factor. And it was clicking pretty early. I will say, in that Cross Keys game, there was a lot of kind of outside variables. Girls game finished early, so now we're starting early. It's throwing our warm up routine off. That was our first game playing on that turf field over at North DeKalb, and so the first goal we gave up, my my keeper actually told me, he was like, "Coach, I slipped." He was like, "That was not." He was like, "I could have very easily gotten that ball, but I backpedaled and slipped on it." So that could have been a very, very easy recovery for him to stop maybe one of those goals. So those two that we gave up against Cross Keys is maybe not our best moment, but throughout the course of the season, and as we continued, and we were able to keep our rhythm before game days, that was a huge component of just our success. Not having any kind of alteration in terms of how we prep and what we do for our warm up.
When it comes to this group of yours
Mhm.
going up against Westminster, and I asked Coach Snyder this question too. I said, so first time viewer, someone who hasn't seen you play, somebody, the casual just comes to sit down and they want to watch what's going to happen at Duluth in a couple days' time. When things are going well for you, who do their eyes gravitate toward? Who are we keeping an eye on your team, so we know that things are going well for Marist against Westminster?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Edward Kennedy, my big central player in that back three. I mean, he's been phenomenal all season. Won Player of the Year for the region. Had I want to say it was 8 goals or 9 goals in region play, and was a huge part of the success. In giving up so little goals throughout the season, and actually won us a couple games on some major headers. Cross Keys game. It was, I believe it was 2-2, and his diving header across is what made it 3-2 to put us in the lead. So he's just a big time player to watch, and he's been fantastic for us this season. And he's one of those that just gets it. And then I would say a couple others that you'll have to keep an eye out for are Graham Burr, number 22, freshman. Came in, was originally playing with JV and got an opportunity to call up and started, and he's been in the starting lineup since. So he's been electric, very technical player. He's comfortable on the ball, makes good game time decisions. So he'll be one to look out for if we're on our A game. But I'll be honest too, those are just kind of two that stick out. But really, you'll know we're playing well if all 11 are just linking passes together and in the right positions, because you'll see formationally we do a very good job of keeping our shape and trusting in each other as a team. And so I think that's been a huge part of our success as well. Is like we said, when you only give up 4 goals all season, a part of that is just that comfort and understanding of formation and shape and what roles and responsibilities are for each player. And so, we give them obviously the freedom to have that kind of creativity when they have the ball at their feet, and the creativity to make the decisions on and off the ball. But really just that comfort in keeping their shape and their positioning is when we look super clean.
How much film study have you done on Westminster, or do I even need to ask?
We've watched a couple of their most recent games, specifically playoff games, because I feel like it's, a lot of what you see in region games is going to be different than what you might see in playoff games. There's a whole slew of things that could be happening throughout region play. They're still in school, so there's stuff going on. They could have been out for a certain day or different things like that. So, once you get into the state playoffs is kind of where it solidifies a little bit more in terms of what your expectations of, who's coming on the field, what formation they might play. So we've definitely done our due diligence over the past several playoff games, as well as 1 or 2 regular season games. But I think we've got a solid game plan, and again, it really is going to boil down to us. So the biggest key for me is focusing on how we play, how we want to accomplish our goals. And the boys yesterday, I mean, they were fired up. When we were in training, just moving the ball really well. I mean, I could add 12, 13 players to the other team, and they still would have found ways to find pockets of space and find ways to play. So, they're really dialed in on this. And I think it's kudos to all the players for, continuing to stay locked in. So, yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a fun game.
How do you keep them from getting too excited and too locked in and too amped up? You want them to pace it heading into that game. But if they're already, playing, 19 on 11, and they're handling it, and they want, you want to keep adding more players. How do you keep them calm and locked in, understanding that, yeah, it's cool to, it's cool to jump out of your skin a little bit, but it's a long week. You still have a couple days. How do you keep that tempered?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's really in how we train. We like to break sessions up and handle things in a certain way. So, we don't do a lot of scrimmaging, especially at this stage, just because again, we want to look at some more, minute details. So we'll scrimmage for a little bit, but I feel like over the course of the season, we've had the opposite issue, for us, where there's a lot of games we come in very calm, cool and collected, and maybe the nerve side of things for them is more so of a I'm just going to try to relax rather than, get too amped up. So I think that's part of the reason why they're successful in a 12, 13, 14 v11 is because they're cool as a cucumber. These guys are very calm, cool, and collected. They understand, and this has been a reiteration over the course of the season from all of our coaches on staff. It's, mistakes are going to happen. How do you respond to a mistake is what's more important. You're not going to always be perfect. So if you misplace a pass, what's the next step? How do you respond to that? How do you react? And so I think they're comfortable in that realm of, okay, I can make a mistake. Mistakes are natural parts of the game, but I just have to make sure that my response to that mistake is going to benefit the team, and it's crucial for our success leading into the final as well. So.
What are you the most confident about going into this matchup against Westminster, and what concerns you the most about Westminster?
I think I have confidence in our ability to keep possession through the midfield. I think we're going to have some very good movement on and off the ball to try to create some space. But I also have confidence that if it doesn't work out right away and we kind of feel ourselves getting pinned back and, Westminster maybe takes the forefoot, I have confidence that, we can absorb pressure until we figure out what we need to do and where to find the space to break it down. That was a huge component for our win against BT, where, for the first 15, 20 minutes, we felt like we were defending for the most part of it and we were having trouble breaking out. But then as we got into the second half and things settled down a little bit, we were finding more room, we were finding more gaps and starting to create problems for BT. And that's how we pick up a goal, is we switch the point of the attack. Holding mid gets at top of the box, and he is not afraid to have a rip, and he just let it go. And that was a huge moment for us as a team. So I would say that's where I'm confident. One thing I will kind of, give credit to Westminster is I think they find, kind of a calmness in chaos. So I think they like to throw chaotic moments at teams to try to cause some problems, and they find themselves calm in those situations. So long throw-ins, clearances off long throw-ins, corner kicks, like they like to really throw the gambit, from what we could tell. And so we just have to make sure that even in those moments, we're taking care of ourselves and what we need to accomplish to make sure that we're not giving up, anything off of a moment of or loss of focus. So.
Micah Aiken, the head coach at Marist, getting ready for the matchup against Westminster at Duluth. In theory, 7:30 on Thursday, if things don't happen longer before him, which would create more fun and pressures and things like that. Micah, it's always great to see you, my friend. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for the preview, especially during one of the busiest weeks of the year. Good to see you. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
There we go. That's Micah Aiken. And before him, it was Scott Snyder. And so we had your quad A matchup for the boys. Locked in, locked out, done. So now here's the deal. Once again, all week long, you may see drifting into the morning show into some of our gap spaces. We're trying to catch up with as many coaches as we can on the GHSA side, leading into the championships. And so here's the rundown, and we'll drift back into Atlanta United coming up in a bit. But here's the rundown as it exists for what is going to be played where and how. So okay, so here we go. Here's your rundown of all your matchups. Tomorrow, it is going to be Class A Division I boys and girls, and it is going to be at McEachern at 5 and 7:30. So 5 and 7:30 tomorrow. Morning, David. David, we kind of drifted into Atlanta United. We had Abe Gordon on from 92.9 The Game. We've gone over some of the numbers. We heard from Ronald Hernandez. We're going to hear from Ronnie Dylick coming up in a bit, and it's a bit long. We played the Ronald Hernandez sound that we didn't bleep. So we earned our explicit rating this morning in hour number 1. But we also caught up with head coaches at Westminster and Marist. On the boys' side, they're going to be playing each other in the Quad A final on Thursday at Duluth at 7:30. So here's your rundown before we drift back into, and we also talked about Carlo Ancelotti being the new manager of the Brazilian national team. So here's your rundown of all of the matchups, when they are, where they are. And remember, no Soccer is in Session Playoff Daily Live today. That kicks back up tomorrow, and it is going to be Molly McCarty from Jefferson Frank Zamora from Johnson, Gainesville, and I know we have a third at 12:15 that I can't remember off the top of my head. Wednesday, we catch up with Atkinson County, and don't be surprised if you end up with coaches here in the morning show this week, since if they can't make an opportunity to be a part of things on one show or the other. So if you end up seeing a high school coach in the morning show this week, that's why. Because it's championship week, and we're trying to have coaches in wherever we can get them to break everything down in the 16 matchups. And trying to catch up with 32 coaches is a bear, but that's 2 of them. Bremen and Model at McEachern tomorrow at 5:30, Class A D1 girls. Class A D1 boys are Murchie and Thomasville. That's at 7:30 at McEachern. On the Wednesday, Jefferson and Oconee County, AAA girls, one of the matchups to watch regardless of classification. AAA classification is going to be some fantastic soccer. 5 o'clock at McEachern on Wednesday. It is going to be Class A girls, Jefferson and Oconee County. We're also trying to grab Judson Hamby, see if he can catch up with him too. Duluth at 5 o'clock on Wednesday. Lovett and GAC on the girls' side. We've reached out to both of those coaches. Class A boys, McEachern at 7:30 Wednesday, Johnson, Gainesville, and Northwest Whitfield. There'll be a good chance to catch up with Coach Zamora and Esau Gutierrez. Also, Duluth at 7:30. It is private boys state championship, AIS and Whitfield Academy. That is on Wednesday at 7:30 at Duluth. Thursday, full day, 3 venues going at once. Walton and Buford, 6A girls, McEachern, 5 o'clock. Jarrett Smith and I will have that one for you on the NFHS network. Walton and Buford, 2 heavyweights. That one's going to be fun. Marist and BT, girls, 5 o'clock on Thursday at Duluth. ACA, Atlanta Classical Academy, and Lake Oconee Academy. That one is on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Class A D2 girls. Lake Oconee Academy, ranked number 3. ACA, ranked number 5. 6A boys, Grayson and Campbell. That one is going to be Thursday, 7:30-ish at McEachern. Grayson and Campbell. Grayson ranked number 1. Campbell is coming in as the 2 seed out of region number 3, unranked, but have made runs deep in the past. Quad A boys, once again, 7:30 at Duluth on Thursday. Marist and Westminster caught up with coaches Snyder and Aiken just now. Also, 7:30 at Mercer, Class A D2 boys, Atkinson County. Once again, we're catching up with Coach McKinnon from Atkinson County tomorrow on Wednesday on In Session Live, and Lake Oconee Academy going for the double. Once again, that one is at 7:30 on Thursday at Mercer-Macon. 5A girls, 5 o'clock at Duluth on Friday, Northgate and Roswell. Double A girls, 5A at Mercer on Friday, Pike County and Savannah Arts Academy. 7:30, Double A boys at Mercer, Shaw and Drew Charter. 5A boys, that one's 7:30 at Duluth, Sprayberry and nationally ranked River Ridge. Sprayberry and River Ridge, once again, this one's going to be a heavyweight battle. Got to call the Sprayberry-Johns Creek matchup on Friday as our last regular season broadcast for everything here on SDH. Sprayberry and River Ridge, that one's going to be pretty good. 5A boys. And so that is your rundown of everything going on. So like I said, if you're kind of drifting in and out and you end up seeing a high school coach, that's why, because we're trying to cover them both here on the morning show and on In Session if they can't get away for their lunch hours. So that's where we are. All right. Time to circle back. Morning, David. You didn't miss much. You got a lot of folks talking about stuff. And so here is as promised, the conversation that was had, at least part of it, probably half the conversation that Ronnie Dyla had with the media. And it starts with Jason's first question, once again, courtesy of our friends at Atlanta United. Here's Ronnie Dyla after the matchup with Atlanta United and Chicago Fire. Ronnie Dyla starting off answering Jason's first question after the matchup this weekend in Chicago.
I think it was a difficult pitch to play on because it's very sticky and a lot of wind, especially first half. I think we we had to defend a lot, and I think we wanted to go out with a back five to control more and have more control when switches come, and also get players more higher in the pitch when we win it, and play a little bit more longer and get more of first ball, second balls. I think we come into some good moments, but we were not accurate enough in with the ball. And also too soft inside our own box. I think that's is the message, like through the whole game. You know, we give away too much easy. Like the penalty situation, I think it's 6, 7, 8 times that we can clear that ball in the box, and end up with a penalty to them without. It's not even a close to a chance. So that put us, of course, in a difficult situation. But I think we kept in second half we are coming more and more into it, and I think we in the end deserve to get a goal. And then I'm very, very disappointed how soft we are, and we don't track runners. We don't defend the same way, and we let them get into the game. One chance, okay, you can accept, but when it comes 2 and 3 chances to them with the ball losses and then counterattacks, and we don't do the job. That's what we have to learn. If not, we're not going to win football games. 1-1 here, you can take that with you, and then maybe you had a chance to win it as well. Then you put yourself in a situation where you're 2-1 down. Then of course it's going to be tough to win football games.
Felt like there were waves in the game where there were moments where the team was fighting, standing up for one another, and then there were moments where they were second to everything. Is that inconsistency just kind of the nature of struggling to get results at the moment?
Yeah, you're totally right. That's what's so when you can come in and you can say, I felt we showed that we wanted more today, like a little bit the same as it was for 35 minutes against Nashville. You see the spirit, you see the fight, but then you see also in the next situation we switched off and we give away things that is not possible to do, and then you end up with on the wrong side of the goal score, and you don't get points.
What other ways are there in your mind to try to get the best out of Alexi and Miguel on the field together? You've moved it around a few different ways. Is there anything else to do?
Yeah, yes, of course. We have to keep moving forward. Talking about situation, and they also, it's about accountability for everybody. Everybody has a responsibility, but it starts with hard work. That has to be in bottom. And as you say, I think today you see a lot of hard work, but it's inconsistent. And we need to have that consistency over time, and especially inside the 2 boxes, we need to be more deadly than we are. I think again also we went to a back 4 to get a goal. We get the goal. But then also you see the problems we get with switches of play, and when we come half and half and don't track runners, then you get into bad situations. So in a way we went for it. So back 5 I felt control, but of course we need to score goals as well. So it's to find that balance between things. And on the road you need to suffer. You need to stick together. And now, as I said, now when I see the group, we have to come. You have to come together. We have to feel the feeling that we have now, and understand that the only way forward now is to really, really be humble and accountable, and then and understand that you need to do it as a team. Then it's nothing now to sit and be inside and think about yourself or feel sorry for yourself or whatever. It's not the time. It's the time to take responsibility. It's the time to take care of each other. It's the time to be ready and start to go. And there should be a long time since we do that. And I'm tired to hear about all the talent we have, because that's been said over a long time, not before my time also. Talent is not enough. We need unity and a hard-working mentality that is strong enough in good times and in bad times. And into that way is the only way now to break that circle and start to win football games. That's how it is, and it can't be in periods. It has to be consistent and has to be accountable. It has to be put accountability to each other on the pitch, and also to the staff and to me. If there's something that is not clear enough, something we need to do more of, whatever, I think that door is always there, and from there we have to grow, because we are where we are because we deserve it.
Ronnie Dyla, head coach of Atlanta United. And there's a lot in there. And like I said, this is why I like the format that we have. because we can take longer than just the 20-second soundbite that folks can take out of context and misinterpret, misidentify, what have you, where we can go and run, 3 minutes of Ronald Hernandez, 4 minutes of Ronnie Dyla. And so Ronnie's sick of hearing things. And he said, you got to backtrack. You got to be back there defensively. And, at the same time, admitting that, if there's something that's not getting through in translation, then it's something that, obviously he and the staff have to work for. But he's, you heard how frustrated he was in the post-match interview setting that was there. So there you go. Once again, this is this is the first big week of a lot of big weeks. And you're in a week where you're coming out of Chicago. You don't really have time to, and this is something that we discuss with other coaches and things in situations where if you're coming off of a loss, the fact that you have 3 matches in a week means that you can basically take this one, flush it, but don't forget it, because there's a difference. Flush it and forgetting it is one thing. Flushing it and remembering it and taking the lesson and going forward is something else. So you have the opportunity here with Atlanta United to sit there and learn from what happened with Chicago, learn from what Ronnie Dyla said post-match, and apply it to what you're seeing with Austin. And you get to do the same thing from Austin and from Chicago and apply it forward to Philadelphia. But like I said, 3 separate approaches in 3 separate places where these teams are right now. Where you have Chicago, who is rebuilding under Greg Berhalter. You have Austin, who can't score, except in Open Cup competition against USL Championship competition, where they were down 2-1 to El Paso Locomotive, scored 2 quickly, turned around, came back, and got the win to advance to the round of 16. And everybody's like, oh, they found their shooting shoes. Understood that it was against a team that you should have beaten from a lower division. And you found the minutes, you found the connections. And I think that if you were watching the match, I also think that El Paso they were fading, and it was an opportunity for Austin to take advantage of it. But yes, Austin in MLS play has only scored 1 goal, I think, in the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks, or 2 and 5. So they are still struggling offensively, and it's an opportunity for Atlanta to take advantage of that come midweek. So you look at Austin, and we mentioned their goal scoring lack of prowess. And right now, Austin 5-6-1. They've only scored 8 goals all season. Tied for last in the Western Conference. Tied for next to last in all of Major League Soccer. Montreal has scored 6. LAG and Austin have scored 8. And going into the statistics, I believe that own goal is second on the roster right now, or it might have trimmed its way back. But Brandon Vasquez has scored 3 of the club's 8 goals. Biro, Pereira, Gallagher, Bukhari, and Uzuni have scored 1 each. So you're going up against a team, and I would not anticipate that this matchup in Austin is going to be a high-scoring matchup because of the 2 keepers that you have in Brad Gazan and Brad Stuver. The defense in this match brought to you by the letters Brad. So anticipate a lower-scoring game, so you have to be clinical and take advantage of opportunities when they're presented to you. So you're coming out of the match in Chicago. You're going into a match that could be very defensive, very low scoring, and then you're going into a matchup against Philadelphia, which is very, very physical on the weekend. So this is the individual challenges that you're facing and the collective of the struggles that you're seeing with Atlanta United this year. So that's where you are right now. We talked about El Clasico, and like I said, we'll talk about more about Atlanta United as the week goes. We're going to try and get our Oppo research from some folks that we are trying to track down in Austin, and we'll try and track them down as best we can to try to have them on either Tuesday or Wednesday, and then catch up with our buddy Dave Leno on either Thursday or Friday. So we'll see what we can do there when it comes to getting ready for Philadelphia. All right, so that's Atlanta United once again. Conversations are going to be there with it about Atlanta United all week long, so we can get into that, and that's always going to be a topic that's going to be available. Probably can get into that more tomorrow, considering everything that will be available to us coming out of those conversations. So once again, and if you missed it in hour number 1, it is going to be me and Abe from Colony Square in the studios of 92.9 The Game. So 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. Mike and Jason will be in Austin. Maddie will be there as well for the unified broadcast at atlutd.com/live. I can't wait for Alex Eberle to wear a 10-gallon hat. And then, so Jason and Maddie on unified, Mike and Jason on the match itself with Atlanta United, me and Abe pre and post. So 8:40 means 7:30. So 7:30 start. Temperatures supposed to be well into triple digits. 106 is listed as the high temperature in Austin on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens there. And once again, this falls into the whole idea about anything and everything that will be attached to this one that is a part of the greater picture. Coming out of Chicago, heading into Austin, looking 3 days later, Friday, Saturday, 3 days later, you get home, you regenerate, you walk through, you got Philly. You regenerate yesterday, or maybe you got yesterday off. Regenerate, walk through, travel, Austin. You come home, regenerate, walk through, Philly. So that's where you are with Atlanta United right now. And once again, Ronnie Dyla, he ain't having it. Wasn't having it after the matchup in Chicago. You heard that. Got to get back and defend, especially when you've got an equalizer that you worked for with 10 minutes to go. So I will be intrigued to see what it looks like at practice and what it looks like around the board when it comes to who's in the starting 11, who's in the match day 18, who's going to get minutes, how do you manage your minutes, all of those questions here in the midweek to get you ready for the big matchup against Philly on the weekend. And I know that you kind of have to look at things, and I know that Abe was one who was not going to line things up, and he's not looking at Philly yet, but you kind of have to, I would think, just because of your roster standpoint and managing minutes and all these kinds of things, unless you just want to sit there and go after the Philadelphia matchup, then you don't have to worry about anything until the matchup with Cincinnati on the 25th. But then you turn around and you play the purple team on the 28th, and that wraps up that week. So basically what you have here in the month of May, you're in the middle of a 3-match week. Then you have nothing going on until your Sunday night soccer on the 25th. And then you go Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, taking on Red Bull at Red Bull Arena. So 3-match week, nothing in a 7-day period, then 3-match week. 3 matches in 8, nothing, 3 matches in 7. So because of all of the things going on, you're going to have to manage your roster, and you're going to have to figure out minutes here, minutes there, all of those things. Stylistically, going up against different opponents, what it's going to look like. So this is going to be one of the added challenges for the coaching staff, having to deal with, once again, 3 matches in a week, 3 different styles, and then you end up with 2 that are fairly wide open, 25th and 28th, Cincinnati and the purple team, and then you know what you're going to get from Red Bulls, whom you've managed fairly well earlier this year. And that gets you through the month of May. But like I said, 5 matches left in the month of May. You can make some hay here, and you'll see what happens. So that will be the storyline here in the month of May. 5 matches to go to work your way into a playoff position, playoff discussion, whatever, however you want to break it down. But that's where we are. Let's get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Want to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Remember, no Soccer is in Session Playoff Daily Live today. That kicks back in tomorrow. Looks like Jason Page from Walton's going to join us at 9. Looks like Judson Hamby's going to join us from Oconee County at 9:20. Then Soccer's in Session Playoff Daily Live is going to be stacked starting at noon. Molly McCarty from Jefferson, Frank Zamora, Johnson, Gainesville. They're going to be a part of the discussion. Like I said, we're also efforting Oppo research out of Austin. So we'll see what we can come up with here. But, yeah, it's going to be drifting in and out of high school and Atlanta United and Austin and all of those things, getting it through the midweek. And then on Thursday, we'll talk about Austin, talk about the championships. We'll talk about getting ready for Philly. We'll talk about the championships. And then Philly is on Saturday night, 7:40 kick on the MLS Season Pass, and with Mike and Jason at 92.9 The Game. So, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and all the things. Ben Jacobs has been very, very busy. 106 temperature in Austin. That's the high on Wednesday. Manchester United optimistic of signing Liam Delap if they win Europa League. United and Chelsea, currently the 2 leading Premier League clubs, considering triggering the £30 million clause, active now since Ipswich are relegated. Al Hilal still in touch with the Bruno Fernandes camp. New meeting this week, given a week to a final answer due to the urgency of Hilal lining up signings ahead of the Club World Cup. Manchester United's position remains that Fernandes is not for sale. Captain has given no encouragement to date, told Hilal last year he wanted to stay at United until at least after the 26 World Cup. They also have Yuri Tielemans, meaning Al Hilal, as another midfield option on their radar, and believe a 55 to 60 million euro bid would be accepted. And so once again, we mentioned about Carlo Ancelotti. Brazilian Federation has come out with a statement, as has Arnaldo Rodriguez from the CBF. So you have both of those sides coming out with talk. Genoa defender Coni de Winter drawing interest from Spurs, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Inter, and Napoli, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 million euro. And then the Martin Zubamendi signing, that happened over the weekend as well. All right, so once again, you have your gossip. That's why we call it gossip, and also depending on what particular source you get it from. Bayern Munich do not intend to improve their contract offer to Leroy Sané, despite the new agent. So the 29-year-old who's out of contract with the summer submitting a fresh proposal to the Bundesliga champs. That's from Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany. Napoli sporting director Giovanni Manna remaining silent about a move to sign Kevin De Bruyne on a free. Jonathan David will be a free when his deal with Lille ends in the summer, and he's another target for Napoli. Bayer Leverkusen chief Fernando Caro believes a 50-50 chance Florian Wirtz staying with the club. Arsenal's Jakub Kiwior is on the radar of both Juve and Inter Milan as he weighs up his long-term future. Real Madrid looking to agree to a deal with Liverpool worth about $1 million now. See, you go from 50,000. You go from 50,000 pounds. It's like, well, we kind of like to, what we'd kind of like to do is, what if we give you 50,000 pounds to release him early? And Liverpool's like, no. That's not going to work. So now we're up to about $1 million. Trent Alexander-Arnold, by the way, got booed when he came onto the field for the match yesterday. Booed when he touched the ball, booed when he came on. Nicely done, Liverpool fan. Real Madrid looking now for up to $1 million for Trent Alexander-Arnold to join them before the Club World Cup. Sean Dyche among the candidates to take over at Leicester City, with the Foxes expected to part ways with Ruud van Nistelrooy. Douglas Luiz says he misses playing for Aston Villa as he struggles for first-team football at Juve, who signed the 27-year-old last summer. Brighton among a number of clubs interested in 21-year-old defender Diego Coppola, who plays for Hellas Verona. That's from Fabrizio Romano. AC Milan are keen on Feyenoord center back David Henko, but face competition from Leverkusen and Juve for the 27-year-old Slovakian international. Now, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and all the things. all the things. Today, English Championship Promotion playoffs at 3, Sheffield United, Bristol City. FS2 has the doubleheader of the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. Fox Deportes simulcasting. ESPN Plus, La Liga B, Granada and Eibar at 2:20. Fox Soccer Plus has a children's fan special in the Canadian Premier League with Forge and Ottawa. Paramount Plus Serie A doubleheader, Venezia Fiorentina 12:30, Atalanta Rome at 2:45, and then once again on Paramount Plus, Sheffield United Bristol City is at 3 o'clock. So tomorrow, the rundown will be as such. We're going to have coaches, and we're going to talk about the GHSA championships, kind of like I said, all week long. We're going to be kind of having them drifting in and out, and so I apologize if the show's a bit of a train wreck when it comes to the rundown. We're talking about teachers and trying to find availabilities and shoehorning them into shows. So we're going to have 2 coaches to start off tomorrow. Jason Page, Walton girls, Judson Hamby, Oconee County girls, and one of the marquee matchups of the entire week, Oconee County Jefferson girls. AAA, one of the best matchups of the week. Walton and Buford, absolutely. Oconee County and Jefferson, absolutely. So 2 halves of the 2 of the better matchups the entire week. Coming on tomorrow to bat leadoff, and that'll get us to about 9:45. Then we'll get into everything else. Once again, we got to talk about what happened with Evangelinas Marinakis and what happened with Nottingham Forest and him charging onto the field, even though he's no longer owner. And then we'll get into all of the other news, anything that's left over from all the discussions from Atlanta United. And once again, getting ready for the matchup with Austin. And Soccer is in Session Playoff Daily Live is noon tomorrow as well, from noon to 1. And then we'll break all of that down to get everything started this week. So a lot of high school this week, a lot of Atlanta United this week, and we'll try and see what else is going on. There's a big day in Jacksonville tomorrow, and hopefully we can catch up on the news with that. And then yeah, and so maybe we can catch up with our friends from Major League Soccer on Friday as well. But yeah, that's a long way off, but it's going to come real quick. Once again, thanks to all of you folks for coming in, as you always do, to help break things down on a Reaction Monday. As I always say, Reaction Monday, get it all off your chest. And we'll do the same thing on Thursday. We'll do the same thing again next Monday. Like I said, 6 matches left for Atlanta United in this month. And we'll see where things stand as you get close to the halfway pole here in Major League Soccer for 2025 for Atlanta United. So for everybody here at SDH, once again, thanks to Scott Snyder at Westminster. Thanks to Micah Aiken at Marist. Thanks to Abe Gordon at 92.9 The Game. And thanks to you, as always, for making SDH AM what it is here in the soccer universe when it comes to news, information, morning programming, and everything here at the SDH Network. So for everybody here on this end, to all of you folks out there, we love you very much. Mucha plati, I'll play it safe. And since it is the end of the show, means we get to do this. No Soccer is in Session Playoff Daily Live today. That kicks back up tomorrow. See you back here 9:05 tomorrow morning for Tuesday Thoughts, where we continue to crush it when it comes to the high school championships. Play it safe, everybody. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do that.